as I have done in the past. All right, I'm going to put up mine real quick. All right, so we are at the top of the hour, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm excited. October is always a fun month for me. It's my favorite month. I just hate what comes after in November. But we have two wonderful speakers today, and both I found from the National Agri-Ability Conference this past March in Washington. And our first guest is Dave Anderson. And you guys know that with me being partially disabled and being a cattle farmer, that there are certain type of adaptations of equipment, of products that I know myself would truly decrease my stress and anxiety, because that is a lot of my difficulty anyway. One, just being smaller statured, and then also having the trouble of having to stand and not having the strength because of my injuries to get farm equipment hooked up together. So when I saw Dave over at his booth, which was right next to mine, having these people hook up the PTO link, I thought, what the heck is that? I got to go over and see that out. Well, what turned into, a quick lesson turned into, I think, like maybe an hour or two, like really deep conversation about stress, anxiety, mental health. So I definitely wanted to ask Dave, how am I going to go ahead and get you in front of our audience? So I'm going to stop sharing. Dave is going to show us what PTO Link is, and then how it's going to help all of our farmers in the future decrease their stress, anxiety, just keep a better all mental health on the farm. All right, Dave, I'll let you take it away.
Thank you, Carrie. It's a pleasure to be here. It's an honor. I'm so excited to share a little bit about how our product might help in the area of stress. I know I've started having a few ailments, not to the degree probably that a lot of the clientele was in need of for agri-ability, but certainly starting getting arthritis in my hands and neck and things like that. So trying to hook up PTOs on the back of the tractor is already a challenge for me. I can tell the difference when I do have it and when I don't have it, because I do a lot of the video marketing. I'm part of the marketing team here, as well as the customer care. So I do hear from customers that are struggling with various things, and they see our product to go, well, how would this help? And they see the videos, and instantly I think it kicks in that, okay, that looks like that would help to make my job easier. And so we have conversations, and I let them know there's some pros and cons of how to use our product, make sure you have this, get the right product for your tractor, various things like that. So that's kind of been my role. A little background for me is I used to be a drug and alcohol rehab counselor, worked in Hawaii as well as here in Houston for a homeless shelter for men, and worked with folks. And obviously there's a lot of addictions and various things like that people aren't just function at their highest and best self. So have a little background in just that aspect of it, how to help to come across ideas or plans to make things work better for yourself mentally, spiritually, physically, all those kind of things. So a little bit of my background, which I think plays in really well when I came to work here at PTO Link a little over 4 years ago. My objective was to help people. It's always been what I love to do, is to assist people. And so I probably stay on the phone way longer than I should. I get told that often. My boss hears me from the other room, like, Dave, that call was 40 minutes long. Couldn't you have got off a little sooner? But I love these ag and farm ranch guys and ladies. I just love talking with them. I love to hear stories, and I love to, if I can be assistance and give them some tips and tricks of how our product works, and been great. But okay, just to get to showing you what our product is, this was shot at the National Farm Machinery Show, and it's just I think about a 30-second clip. So wanted to share this with you so you could kind of get a glimpse of what our product is and does. So everybody, let's see, is it showing? Yeah, there we go. Is it showing the screen? Are you seeing that, Carrie?
I see it. Yeah, video looks good. Just hit play and we'll check the sound.
All right, let me go a little wider on the screen. Okay, here we go.
All right, so if you guys have a tractor, this is what your PTO looks like, and you got to try to hook up to, right?
This is the part we don't like to do, is trying to connect these to these splines. So we have two interlocking plates we install first on our tractor. That gets locked in that easily. Then we go to the implement side. We lock that together. The four studs go together, give it a little 1/2-inch twist, finish it off with our safety bolt. To remove the system, you just take that apart, pull the pin, and it disconnects that easily.
And does this stay on the tractor and this stay on the implement?
You can keep this on permanently, or you can remove it that easy.
And what about this one now?
This one also disconnects just as easy by pushing your pin, removing it, putting it on another implement. That's
And what
all you
is
have
it?
to do.
What is this called, and where do guys
It's
find
called
it?
the PTO Link system. It's at tractorptolink.com.
Thank you, sir. All right, so if you guys
Okay, so let me get out of that screen. I wanted to show one more video. This video was actually taken at the AgriBility event this past March. And the gentleman here that's on camera, his name's Alan, and he walked up to our booth. And honestly, there was some, I did not know for years that we were considered assistive technology. I never even knew that word existed. So it was kind of funny when we had people coming up to our booths, and one guy was a shop teacher at a high school that did not have one of his arms. And he came up and he says, yeah, I get the PTO link, and that's the way that I hook up my tractor. That's the only way I could hook up my tractor. And we were like, oh, okay, show us how you do that. Like, and so he came up and he did this. That wasn't this guy, but we were fascinated at that. And the other guys, well, I have no problem hooking my implement. These are all high schoolers. So it was very interesting to, while I was at the AgriBility, I asked Alan, I said, Alan, would you mind let me filming you of connecting the PTO link? Of course, this is showing it already being installed, which you saw how easy it was for the last video. But let me just play this. It's 47 seconds.
Hey Alan, show us how to hook up that PTO link with using only one arm. That's pretty darn fast. Now put that plunger pin, that safety pin in. There you go. There you go. Now remove it. Oh my goodness, look at that. Now the problem that you're running into is your tractor doesn't freewheel. This one's trying to freewheel. So we just got a little bit of a challenge. Let me hold that for you. Pull that out again. There you go. If your tractor doesn't freewheel, then that would stay fit, which is perfect for you because that way you're rotating only this side. Very good. Thank you for that, sir.
Okay, so let me stop sharing. So that was my first time to actually see the guy that was at the booth in Moultrie. I don't remember if I saw him connect or disconnect, but he told us about it and was talking to his kids there that came to the show with him. And so that was the first time. In his case, as I mentioned there, as he was trying to disconnect it, because it does require a little bit of a twist to disconnect. So both the implement side and the tractor side were both rotating together, so he couldn't get it to disconnect. Once I simulated what his tractor does, which is not freewheel, then he was able to disconnect it really quickly. So pretty impressive. I was like, okay, how's this actually going to work? Because we've told stories like that, but I haven't seen it in action until Alan did this. So I was pretty impressed. But that's our product. Like I said, we started getting AgriBility folks coming to our booth and said, yeah, we're using the PTO link. It's on our national site. It's also we've bought one. We're showing people. We're bringing it around to the college campuses and various places like that. And I was like, really? Tell us more. And then we talked to some folks down in, I can't remember her name all of a sudden, from Florida, and she was telling us about the AgriBility event in March. So I ended up going to that and got to hang out with all the fun people over there. And so that's kind of where we got started in this whole world of assistive technology. We had no idea until we knew the folks that were struggling with arthritis, back pain, hand strength, various things like that. We're struggling to get their parts on. The story kind of goes, Ken, which is our inventor, started the company around 5.5 years ago. Well, he bought him a piece of property that had a tractor and a brush hog on it, and he had no idea how to hook it up. So 45 minutes into that process, he's like calling his dealership, hey, tell me how to do this. So the guy comes out, shows him. It still takes him 30 minutes or so. And he goes, well, there's got to be a better way than this. This can't be the way everybody does it. And that led into a conversation where the guy's like, actually, that's the only way. And started kind of laughing at the idea that there would be another way. And he goes, well, I'm going to come up with something. And so he had a CAD drawing on his software. He's actually a software guy. And so he went into his program, started designing something, and he came up with this design that we're currently used now. Obviously, the first product was really rough, and it took a lot of renditions to get it to where it is now. And but that's how it started. It's just from a farmer that had no clue, or newly owned property owner that had no clue how to hook up tractor to the implements, and that's what got us started. And here we are, 5.5 years later. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah.
I think it's pretty amazing. Like when you told me that story, that he just was an inexperienced farmer and had the initiative to say, well, I'm going to make this easier on myself. But in the years forward, you're like, oh my gosh, look what happened from this one thing that I decided to do to help myself. I had no idea that I was going to help people with physical challenges like myself. And then boom, 5 years later, you're going crazy. So I thought it was interesting. You said AgriBility was already sharing your product before you even knew that. Is right?
That's right.
Yeah.
In fact, we still need to update the website, the AgriBility site. They have a picture of our very first unit. So it's like we're working on getting them the right information to get that uploaded so they have some of our current products. But yeah, they've been using it, been on their website, and we were like, wow, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, which opens up a whole new world and a new perspective for you guys. So Jessica in the chat said, Dave, I got to tell you, I was working really hard on convincing my husband I needed this just the other day.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Tell him to call me.
Quite honestly, I love it because even like hooking up our brush hog, or we do a lot of hay, tedding, rake, all that kind of stuff. Even trying to get the PTO in there, and you're trying to push the buttons. One, I come out and I've got grease up to my elbow, trying to get in there. So that's a plus just on its own. But there are days like I go out and I work, even though I'm feeling pretty mediocre. And it's almost like my energy level and my strength decrease by half of what I've already lost. So I may be out there and I'm just like sweating profusely, and I'm trying with all my might, just trying to get it up there because nobody's around. I'm home by myself, and it's so frustrating. And I end up sitting down because I have to rest, because I can't stand for the 25 minutes that I've been trying to lug this thing up there, because it's heavy. Which is another thing that I want you to
Hold on, Keith.
explain.
Let me put these guys on mute here. Hold on.
Okay.
There we go.
Which is another
Sorry
thing I
about
want
that.
you to talk about, Dave, because you have another product that I don't know if it's out yet or if it's in the works, where you help hold that, like you have what do you call that thing that helps hold the PTO?
Yes, gotcha. I can discuss that. I thought I had one in my office. Can you give me 1 second? And
Yep.
And let me come right back to you, because I think I have it right next door. Do you have the PTO sling real quick in here? Is it in Mark's office?
Yeah.
Sling.
I'm on a live
sling.
call right now. They're hearing you. Can you see if you can get it out of his office and bring it to me? Thank you. Sorry, I got Nathaniel, my neighbor. They're going and getting it out of his office.
I love each product separately, but when you put it together, like whoosh, my stress level just went crazy, because half of my trouble is just keeping a hold of the PTO, and my ankles can't hold that much weight for that long. And that's part of my struggle. So having that sling, I think is like just an awesome addition to the PTO Link.
Yes, yes. I think he's coming with that sling. And by the way, I did not realize the stress level, the aspects of, I know physical level is reduced when you can make the job easier, right? Work smarter, not harder. Oh, thank you. So this is one of our prototypes, and I apologize, it's not the one I would prefer to show you. But is there a way to make my view larger on the screen? Because right now it's still you on the screen for a large view. I've got it set to speaker view.
Yeah, I was gonna say everybody else should have theirs set to speaker view, hopefully, so that you're gonna be big.
Okay, okay, good. I have that and it doesn't switch automatically for some reason. It's keeping you on.
Okay, let me mute my.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so this doesn't, let's see, I'm gonna have to stop my background. Virtual background, none. Okay, there's what my office really looks like. So this is what we call the PTO Link sling. And so if you can imagine, you have two lift arms at the back of your tractor that's got holes here that your pins go in. So they're like this. So the way this is designed is, this is not, we've had multiple prototypes trying to get it just right. Let me just get this. So this would go over the lift arm and lock into a D-ring, which is on the newest one. And then this one would go around. Sorry, this is not the greatest, but let me just give you how the overall look. So it's going to look similar to this. These two hooks would go over their lift arms and lock back into a D-ring that this prototype's not showing. And then, sorry, I've got all kinds of stuff here hanging here. So, and then there's this little pad there that your shaft would sit on. So, or the drive line. And so as the weight of that goes down, it would be more like this. And you use your hydraulics to actually lift and lower that heavy drive line that she was referring to. So what ends up happening is that once you get it up in a position, let's say you got raised a little too high, you can just hit the button on one side. It's just a cam buckle. So when you hit that little buckle there, the weight of it will actually start sliding down a little further, so you can get your drive shaft to be right in the position you need it to be. So you're not handling the weight of the shaft as well as trying to connect it. The connecting part is what we initially were working on and fixing. This right here is going to assist in the weight issue, which is another problem that most of our folks are asking about, especially those that have the larger implements with a heavier implementation weight. So of course it would get hooked in. It could hook right up on the side arm, the lift arm, and of course these all can be adjusted independently. So you just have to pull on it. So there's how it would look, similar to, I'm sorry, this is a very poor demonstration, but but that's kind of the idea. And what we, the idea for that is just changing the way that people have to go, because we were running into situations where I'd get customers that would buy the PTO Link system, and then they would go to put it on, and because our product has, it's a total of about 8 pounds of metal, so they would install it on the tractor, which didn't add weight to what they were handling. But when they put it on the implement side, it actually added another 4 pounds to the already heavy plates. So what was end up happening is they'd said, well, I still can't handle the bat wing weight. And these are people sometimes in their 80s that are still hooking up bat wings. And it's really shocking. The bat wings are 12 foot, 15 foot, even 20 foot wide, with these super huge shafts that can weigh 800 pounds on the end that you're lifting up. And I don't even understand why they would buy that kind of thing if they can't handle it. But this is gonna, when this comes out, and we're waiting for our very last prototype, probably in the next week. Once that comes out, we'll have it on our website so we can actually make that available for folks. And we know sometimes it's funny, we'll get to talking to people and they go, well, that right there is what I need more than anything. And we're like, okay, well, it's coming out soon. So we're excited about that.
Now, Dave, you didn't mention, but I think this is a great thing that you offer, is you can actually purchase those two adapters separately, so that you can just put the one side and leave it on all of your equipment, right? Like, so you don't have to switch back and forth.
So this one would go, yeah, let me get my background. Trying to be fancy and it messed it up. No background. There we go. So the part here that goes on the tractor goes on the tractor spline. You just lock that on and just leave it on, and that could just stay on all the time. And this one here would go on the implement side, and it's just got 4 teardrop holes that you come bring together and give it a little twist. You can twist this side or this side to get the 2 plates to lock in place. Pull the pin, remove it. It does have a secondary pin that we call like the deadbolt of the system, but this one would go on all of your implements. If you wanted to move this one around to different implements, you could do that for savings of a little money. Just don't buy enough of those. So you can buy these. This is what we call the Duo, which is like the starter package of it. And then you can buy as many of the implement plates as you want to outfit all of your implements. Or the implements, I always recommend people outfit the implements they use on a regular basis. If they've got post hole digger they use every 3 or 4 years, no sense buying any product for that. They can move it out of one right into the other one. And all it just takes is just pushing your pin, pull back your collar, and this slides right out of your implement. And then you can just put it right in your next one. Literally in seconds, you can move things around. So a lot of people will opt to do that, and they'll call back later and go, yeah, I think I need one for all my implements now. They're tired of moving them around.
Yeah, it does make it pretty convenient to be able to do that and just leave it on. Makes you a little bit spoiled, but much less stress. Much less stress. So I'll open it up. What do you guys think? Give Dave some feedback, ask him any questions that you want to. Just go ahead and unmute. David in the chat said, love these. I wish my dad had these when his arthritis prevented him from attaching the PTO. The sling idea is also a great idea. And you know, Dave, like whenever I met you, I specifically looked at it for people with physical challenges like me, but it can be for anybody who is just aging. Even if they have like a long-term, or I shouldn't say long-term, a short-term disability where they're going to have trouble for like 3, 6 months, a year, but then they know they're going to be fine. Man, that's a great product to get them through right at that point. So do you want to go over cost?
Yes, thank you. One quick story, and I thought this was so cool. In fact, I was in tears the first time I heard this guy say this. He calls me up and he says, Dave, I bought your product. And he goes, I want to tell you something. I want to tell you about my experience. And I'm like, okay. And because I'm the customer care guy, sometimes I get calls of what doesn't work or why it doesn't work or why does it work this way and various things like that. But the guy says, I've had multiple back surgeries. And he says, when I bought your product, it takes me now longer to get in the saddle of my tractor than it does to hook up my PTO. And here, almost every time I tell the story, and it just like it made what a big difference. Like it takes him longer to get into the tractor than it does for him to hook up his PTO, and that just made my day. And it keeps making my day every time I tell that story. But price. So we have 3 different models that are available on our website. Dealers are starting to carry this across the country. But they start off with this set here. You can't see it again. So you set off with this set here. This is our blue label. This works for tractors up to 130 horsepower. We also have some that's rated for up to 100 horsepower, and then some that's rated up to 70 horsepower if they're only using category 1 implements. If you know about farming, then you would understand all those details. But they start off at, and if you look at my screen here, if you can see, the white label there is going to be what we call our compact system. I don't know if y'all can see that. The middle one is the I can't see because of my page is showing my name there. So there's a red, there's a green, and there's a white. They start at, now that I said, let me give you the price so everybody knows what to expect. So our HD starts off at, for just the Duo set, 1 tractor, 1 implement plate. It doesn't want to open. There we go. $439.99, so $440. The SD system, which is our mid-level up to 100 horsepower, it'll go for $389, so $390. And then our compact system, it starts off with the Duo set at $350. So, and of course, you can buy it in packages of trio, quads, star packages, depending on, and you save a little money by buying more options at the same time. That's ideal if you've got multiple implements you're trying to outfit it at once.
So in the chat, Mike says, do you have this available for the 1000 RPM PTO?
Good question. Right now it's only 540, but we are working, the very next product we're going to make is the 540 to 1000. So this part here will have a 1000 spline. Now, most people don't have a 540 to 1000, but when we talked to our dealers, they said, well, I can see the real benefit of that because there's a lot of implements that are set for 1000, but their tractors are all 540. So this would work kind of, they can connect a 1000 to a 540 and gives them that option. But then the next product will be the small 1000, which it'll be the 21 tooth spline on both the tractor and implement side. Horsepower range will go up much higher because 1000 horsepower implements, RPM implements have far less torque than a 540 RPM tractor. So we'll be able to move those horsepower ranges much higher with a 1000. And usually those are larger tractors above 130 anyway. So we think it'll go somewhere closer to 200 horsepower or maybe even more. We don't, not quite sure. And then we'll go to the large 1000. So is the plan. Now, one thing to keep in mind. So when you connect these two plates together, I know you can't see the greatest, but when you connect these two places together, we add 5 inches to the drive line. So from the point of the ball bearing notch, and sorry, you can't see that, keep 1000 from here down to the portion that the ball bearings are here is approximately 5 inches. So with every implement that this goes on to, tractor and implement, we add 5 inches into the drive line. And it's pretty common. People know that when you add something into a drive line, you need to make sure your drive line length is adjusted if it needs it to be. A lot of implements don't need it. Some implements do. So we also have a drive line measuring video that walks you through the steps of how to measure to make sure you don't bottom out the drive line, putting your system in a bind when you make a lift, or with a pull behind like your hay equipment. Those are all pull behinds, most of them. So what we find there is usually they're long enough that they don't need it, but in some cases they do have to extend their drawbar, their drawbar out further to make up a little of that distance, or they can just adjust the drive line down just a little bit by cutting, an inch or 2 or 3 inches, whatever they need.
Awesome. Jessica in the chat said you had to jump off, but she said, thanks for the awesome products.
Oh, thank you. I don't see the chat, so maybe I don't have a setting on. Oh, now I do.
There you go.
Oh, there we go.
So anybody else have any questions before we switch over to Miss Darla? So I don't know how to say your first name. It's Sene, maybe?
My name's Sene.
Sene.
Yes.
She said, this is great. Addressing the stress of the physical and medical limitations can potentially decrease mental health issues such as anxiety, depression, substance abuse, pain. That's exactly what I saw when I saw it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We agree. And yeah, thank you.
We're definitely going to send out your information, but while people are still on, in the chat, will you share your email and then the PTO Link website URL? Okay. In there, because then I always like to hit it and then save my tab for as soon as I get off. Then I can go look at it.
So I'll just put my email and then let me put the web address so everybody can. Yeah. And if you have any questions, our sales team's pretty good about helping people figure out what they need. I'm probably the most experienced with that because I talk to every customer almost that calls in and asks more specific questions. I used to be the only one doing all those calls, so I usually can help out every scenario. People have questions on how to, what to expect, what to know about. So, okay, our web address, tractorptolink.com, just uploaded that as well.
Awesome.
To the chat.
Dave, I appreciate you agreeing to come on. I've wanted to get you on for a few months and our schedules have been crazy. But I was like, I knew I had to get you in front of the audience. I knew this was going to help a lot of, our clients in all different ways.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been an honor.
We appreciate you. All right. So next we're going to talk to Miss Darla, who I actually didn't get to meet at the National Agribility Conference. after everything was over and most of the booths were down, I was wheeling around all of the tables, and I saw her booth, which I had not seen previously. And I thought, I have never heard of this project, of this organization. So I snatched that card. It had been sitting in my backpack all of these months, and I pulled it out and I was like, hot dang. I'm like, I forgot I had her card. I'm like, I need to look this up and see if she will present on our AgriStress page meeting. So Miss Darla, I'm going to go ahead and let you start sharing, and she is going to explain what Ask in Earnest is and what they do for clients like we have.
Great. Hello. Thank you so much. Let's see. I just have to be able to get to my slideshow. Okay. You can hear me. You can see my screen.
Yep, everything's good.
Great. Thank you so much. Thanks for letting me have some time with the people and your organization today. I will just ask for a little bit of grace because I have my my helper with me, my 8-month-old German Shepherd puppy. We're at my best friend's house, and you'll see more about his work here in a minute that he also does to reach the farm and ranch population with mental health, breaking down stigma and whatnot. So she might interject a little bit here. So thanks in advance if I just have to step aside for a moment. But I did want to share with you information about Ask in Earnest and the candid, compassionate conversations about suicide for the farm and ranch community. This is really born from personal tragedy. This is the last picture I have of my family intact. This was taken in Fort Benton, Montana, which is about 40 miles away from my family farm on Lonesome Prairie, Montana, and that's a real place. It's not a made-up name. My dad, who I'm sitting next to, was born on the family farm. He's raised wheat and barley his entire life. And he was so proud of the fact that he was a part of Harvest from age 11 up until the age of 81. So it's just remarkable, you know. I'm excited to reach 30 years in my career, my full-time career, and I couldn't imagine, you know, having a career, a passion, you know, for over 70 years. That last summer, because of health issues, specifically vision issues, my dad wasn't able to be out there with that last harvest. And then later on in the summer, he developed some other health issues too. So my dad was born on the farm. My brother and I were raised in the farmhouse that he was born in, and he died on the farm at his own hands. Many of us have the blessing to know and love the work that Mike Roseman does. If you're not familiar with Mike, he's a psychologist and a farmer in Iowa, and he spent his life work really helping address mental health for the farm and ranch population. And he's developed what's known as the agrarian imperative, which basically in a nutshell states that farmers, ranchers will endure extreme challenges, rely solely on their own judgment to hang on to their farmland, to the farm legacy at all costs. And if for some reason that legacy, that ability to be that farmer, that rancher, to be the leader, if that is threatened, that can be extremely harmful and dangerous to that person's mental well-being. You know, looking back now, I can probably see that's how my dad thought. Excuse my language, but I can hear my dad saying to himself, well, I can't be out there farming. What the hell good am I? And had we known now what we had known then, you know, hopefully we would have had a different outcome. So after his suicide, I felt like I needed to do something, you know, with this energy and try to put it to something that's good. So that other farm families or any family for this matter would never have to go through what we did. And since then, I've endured extreme loss. So I lost my dad to suicide in September 2016. So we just passed the 7-year mark. And I got through that first year, and then I came up on the second year of his death, and my husband said to me, I'm really proud of how you're handling this. The first year you were in a tailspin, and I agreed with him. And I was in a good, air quotes, good spot. Less than 6 weeks after that conversation, my husband and I had, I lost my husband. And then looking at that photo after my dad's suicide, I can see it just really exponentially sped up my mom's death. So 7 months after my husband passed, I lost my mom too. She lost her way. She lost her life partner. She lost her husband. She lost the father of her children. They were married for over 50 years. His suicide exponentially sped up her death. So what I wanted to do is find meaning with all this, and again, put it to something constructive and something positive. And the end result, the goal is to save lives. Even though I don't farm full-time now, my full-time job is at Montana State University Billings. I do go back in the harvest time and help my brother. And this is just an illustration. I'm sure all of us can relate. The photo on the left is when everything is going great and you fill the bin just right up to the top. And I snapped a picture of that on my phone and ran up the steps of the combine and showed it to my brother. And he said, "Yep, yeah, that bin is full. We don't need to try to put any more in." And then the photo on the right is also just a perfect example of, you think you got it all squared away, and no, you find out that you and the spout and the auger are just not getting along on that day. So even though I don't farm full time, I still have one foot in it. My brother's now running the family farm. And I feel that I can be an advocate for my people, to advocate for the health and the well-being and the safety for farmers and ranchers. So what I do with my efforts is kind of multi-layered. Again, this isn't my full-time passion yet. It's my full-time passion, but it's not my full-time job yet. So when I am presenting two different organizations, I talk about the data. I didn't know what I know now about farming and suicide and how prevalent it is, and that farmers have one of the highest rates of suicide per any occupation. And it's not only in the United States, but it's worldwide. What we find out is everything that makes you successful as a farmer, being resilient, being able to make your own decisions, being able to work alone by yourself for long hours, enduring physical pain, all of those factors and more make you a good successful farmer, but also can work against you on the flip side when it comes to mental health, and recognizing that you might be having issues with mental health and there's some need for some extra help. And that often can go against the grain of how farmers and ranchers operate. I talk about risk factors, what can place farmers at a higher risk for suicide. And we talk about everything from lifestyles to an imbalance between work and life outside of work, because that's really not existent too often for a farmer. Environmental factors, behavioral factors. And so we can dive down into those. And then I also spend time, what I really am changing now more so is really spending time talking about harmful suicide myths and stigma, because stigma gets in the road of us being able to, number one, ask for help, and number two, for offering our help to people. So I spend time about exploring suicide myths and stigma. And really, I think where I feel like I can be really impactful is talking about action steps to save lives, because I have the approach that when I put together these presentations and when I'm talking with people, I put myself back on the farm as much as possible, and try to get into that mindset that I'm 50 miles away from medical care. I'm 80 miles away from mental health professional help, or even more. I also appreciate the fact that for some of our farmers, ranchers, even though we have these wonderful online resources that are now available, that can be a bridge too far. And, I can think of my dad, and the idea of my dad using an iPad and talking to this person he has no relationship with could be really, really challenging. The most advanced piece of technology my parents had in the house was a VCR. So I think we have to recognize that even though we have these great resources out there, some of those just don't fit for our farmers who can be most at risk, which oftentimes is our young farmers and then our older farmers. So when I talk about action steps, I talk about what can you do on the farm on a daily basis to protect or improve your mental health. I spend time talking about exercise and nutrition and hydration and stress management and sleep and gratitude. And these all might feel really soft or really fluffy, but evidence shows that all of those action steps I just mentioned can help positively impact depression. And what we know from the data is up to 90% of people that we lose to suicide have an undiagnosed, untreated mental health condition at the time of their death, and number one being suicide. And then time for dialogue at the end. So I do presentations for different groups, and then the next step that we're doing is elevating the conversation about mental health. So this is an example of a newspaper insert that we did late last year and early 2023. This is a project supported by the Suicide Prevention Coalition of Yellowstone Valley. So it was a newspaper insert that went into one of the publications here in Yellowstone County. So we test marketed this image because we're really targeting that male farmer / rancher, a little bit more on the older side. So we really wanted to grab people's attention. And as you may remember, a famous Paul Harvey commentary or speech was "So God made a farmer," and we want to keep him alive. And so then that's the front side. Then you see on the flip side was, here's some warning signs about suicide, and how do you help someone, and really guide people to those local and those national resources. So we did 3 separate images of this, that was supported by the local Suicide Prevention Coalition. And here's one other example. And I think looking at this image, I remember talking with my creative team, and this speaks, I think, on so many layers and levels. It's an older farmer looking down at the tractor in the field, and I wonder, why isn't the farmer himself out in the field? Or is that the next generation? Or has he leased out his land and he's no longer part of that? And so I think there's just so many layers to that, and I love that image. And again, that was one of the 3 images that we had in the print. So here's now another step. We've taken our awareness and educational campaign online. So I do have funding through another project that we're currently running. We're targeting 10 rural Montana counties, and I grew up in Choteau County, so that third one from the left towards the top. We have a population, we average about 1.5 people per square mile in that county. So we're targeting those rural populations that have high suicide rates and looking at the data. So we want to make an impact there. So that's our reach. And so here's what's currently happening online that is targeting those areas, those farm ranch populations, messages of hope, again, elevating the conversations about mental health and challenging the stigma that can exist around mental health and farmers and talking about depression, talking about feeling suicidal. So those are currently running. And what is really, really exciting is it's really taken off. The image on your left is one of those images that are out in people's feeds right now. This data is about 6 weeks old, but we can see it's really performing much higher than what we had expected. Boy, I still need a tutorial every time when I try to talk about reach and impressions and clicks, and I think I will just say that it is performing much better than what we had hoped. And then down at the bottom, again, this data is about 6 weeks old, but you can see where we launched this in early August, and this data only went up through mid-September. So that September data is not complete, but you can see how the web traffic, so the social media images direct people to my website, which you'll see at the end. And you can see how it's really driving people. It's really getting a lot of conversations, and people are going to the website where they can get a lot of information and a lot of access to resources. So, and then this next clip, it's about 30 seconds long. And again, it's just another way that we are elevating the conversations about mental health and working to decrease stigma. I'm currently looking for, in the process of securing funding to update the logos and the 988 number at the very end. So just know that that is getting updated, and I will play this. The very first time I saw this, I cried my eyes out because it's impactful, in my opinion, and it just speaks to the population that we are working to save.
Jim. Hey, Pete, how you doing? That's the day Jim saved my life. I tried ending it all once before.
Hold on, fellas.
Jim wasn't going to let it happen again.
Hi, Jim. Where's my best tipper?
When I stopped showing up, Jim showed up at my door. He didn't let me brush him off, and he took me to the hospital in town to get me help.
Everyone has a role in preventing suicide. Know the warning signs and rock your role. If someone you know is in crisis or emotional distress, call the Idaho Suicide Prevention Hotline at 208-398-HELP.
And when I show this at my presentations, I ask people, what is Jim? You know, Jim isn't a superhero. Jim isn't a mental health professional. Jim is a friend, and he didn't let Pete brush him off, and he connected Pete to life-saving health. And so the message in there is that we can all just be like Jim and save lives. Another thing that I'm really interested in doing at some point is, exploring more and potentially replicating other programs that are happening across the world to address farmer mental health. This is a picture of some efforts that are taking place in Australia, where they go to rural Australia, and they, with the help of a mental health professional, they get the farmers together in a room and they talk about, okay, so what's stressing you out? And when they get the farmers together, they all learn they're not alone with what's stressing them out and what's bothering them. And they can learn from each other about, well, this stresses me out too, and here's how I deal with that. So they help develop those listening skills and those supportive skills and help foster that safe, supportive network. What I have found is that I used to think that stigma meant that people don't want to talk about it, but where I find that people do want to talk about mental health, and they do want to talk about suicide, whether it's their own attempt that they made or the loss of a friend. We just have to provide those safe, supportive environments to do so. And so they do this in Australia for one night, and then the second night they bring in the wives and the girlfriends to help process all this too. And then again, just working what we can do to help end stigma. So this is a current campaign that we're just wrapping up. Yard sign campaigns around Yellowstone Valley. This one is targeting the farm and ranch population. And then on the right-hand side, again, my best friend, he lets me keep my dog over here, our dog really, during the day. And he grew up on a dairy farm in Northern California, had a 30-year career in the military, and he has written a book, and I have contributed to the second edition. And he's really challenges people to think things differently. One of those chapters is titled, "It's Okay to Cry on the Farm." So I encourage people to check that out. It's a great book. And it has lots of leadership nuggets, and it's not theories, it's not charts, it's not data, it's lived experiences. And that chapter specifically addresses if we'd have different mindsets with how we deal with emotions on the farm, it would have helped him differently, helped him process things differently with his time in the combat zone and his resulting PTSD and trauma and moral injury. So in a nutshell, this was Ask in Earnest. And so what I tell people at the end of my presentations, if you remember one thing, is that it's Ask in Earnest, and you may save a life. My website is askinearnest.org. My email is askinearnest@hotmail. I'm not on Twitter, what's formerly known as Twitter, too much, but I do have an account there. I am on Facebook and LinkedIn. So thank you.
That's wonderful, Darla. Is it a training that you're giving? And is it specific to farmers or the layperson, or can you take this to professionals like myself as like a training teaching guide?
Well, I think it could be both, really. Thank you for mentioning that, because I'm also certified as a QPR facilitator, so question, persuade, and refer, which is like QPR is like CPR for suicide. So I can do that like an actual training where people get certificates at the end, and it's a certification that's good for 2 years. So I can do that. And then the Ask in Earnest presentation is really, and it can be customized for about any population that's involved with the farm and ranch community, for sure.
Okay. And I've been wondering this whole time, Ask in Earnest. Did that name come specifically from like your actionable steps, or did it come from your specific interaction with your dad?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. So a few days after my dad died, I was talking with one of his friends, and his friend said, when your dad was in town walking down the street and he saw you, he would stop and he would ask in earnest how you were doing. And he wasn't doing it to be nosy or gossipy. He just really cared about how you and your family were doing. And that just was one of the most beautiful things anyone has ever said to me about my dad. And that's true. So that phrase, ask in earnest, has just really stuck with me. And, just ask the people that you care about, how are you doing? And listen. And in my presentations, we talk about what do those conversations look like, and how do you don't have to turn into a mental health professional. You just have to be that bridge that connects your troubled loved one to professional help.
Yeah, that one got me. Like, I got a leaker over here. I thought that's probably where it came from, but I wanted to know. So in the chat, everybody's saying great presentation. Thank you for sharing information. And then Natalie, our director at AgriSafe, she said that she's excited to share. So the AgriStress helpline is for the farmer in crisis. We are actually going to be in Montana, Colorado, and Washington state by the end of the year. So we're slowly but surely adding those extra states.
Yeah, that's
to help
awesome.
with the same thing. We can all get together and work together and help each other. We can try to help fight this crisis all together. You guys go ahead. You can unmute if you would like, and go ahead and ask Darla some questions. Or if you can't talk, go ahead and put it in the chat.
Darla, hi, this is Natalie. Thank you so much for your presentation. It's very inspiring, and
Yeah.
really hope to connect with you soon about what we're going to have in Montana. And we really need to connect with champions like you to make the crisis line a success in the state. The AgriStress Helpline is a 24/7 crisis line, and the funding that we received to be able to expand to 3 additional states covers the cost of operating the line, but we still need advocates like yourself and others to promote the number, carry the number forward. So I'll be following up with you with some ways that we can work together. And again, really excited to share this because we know there's a lot of great folks in your state that have been looking for a crisis line that can serve the unique needs of the ag community. So you'll be hearing from us.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So Dave says, thank you for what you're doing and grateful that you took your horrible loss and helped others.
Thank you.
You know, I do notice in a lot of these presentations that everybody's getting, these amazing solutions are all coming from personal problems, personal challenges, personal tragedies. Something happens to you that hits you in the gut that hard. I mean, it makes you laser focused on this can't happen to someone else, or it can't happen again. So both of your stories both came from that today. And I appreciate you being vulnerable enough to share everything with us. Anybody else have any questions before we end today? We are going to go ahead and send out both speakers' information and contact information. We're also going to go ahead and send out the link to this meeting. So if you want to watch it again or share it with your colleagues, that would be absolutely amazing to go ahead and get that out there. So if we're all finished, I want to thank you all again for a wonderful monthly AgriStress meeting. And I can't thank you all enough for continuing to show up each month and helping spread the word. So until next month, guys, thank you.
Thank you, Carrie.
You're welcome, Dave. Let me stop.